Good evening, and welcome to the 2022 Emerging Voices Fellowship Final Reading. My name is Jared Jackson, and I'm the Program Director of Literary Programs and Emerging Voices at PEN America. With support from PC Man, PEN America's Literary Programs and Emerging Voices Assistant, it's been our honor to work with this year's cohort of talented writers. The Emerging Voices Fellowship provides a 5-month immersive mentorship program for early career writers from communities that have been traditionally underrepresented in the publishing world. Through curated one-on-one mentorship and introductions to editors, agents, and publishers, in addition to workshops on editing, marketing, and creating a platform, the 5-month fellowship nurtures a creative community, provides a professional skill set, and demystifies the path to publication, with the ultimate goal of diversifying the publishing and media industries. Tonight, you will hear writing from 12 fellows selected from a nationwide application pool whose work ranges from poetry, fiction, and fantasy to creative nonfiction, science fiction, and memoir. Their work reveals truths and asks questions about Black feminism, displacement, Asian American identity, parenting, the Naga and Native American diaspora, and LGBTQ experiences. Along with their wonderful mentors who introduce each writer this evening, it's been an honor to engage with their work, nurture their creative vision, and celebrate their achievements. This program is made possible by the generous support of the Yvonne and Michael Marsh Family Foundation, the Muriel Palia Foundation, and Jamie Wolf. We also want to thank the Emerging Voices Alumni Community and Advisory Board, PEN America staff, and the 2022 readers, final judges, mentors, workshop instructors, and visiting publishing professionals who contributed to this year's fellowship. Finally, we would like to dedicate tonight's reading to 2022 Emerging Voices Fellow Natáhne Arrowsmith, who tragically passed away this summer. A proud Cherokee Nation citizen, Natáhne's novel in progress was titled They Breed Like Rabbits, a fictionalized story based on the research and interviews conducted for her mother's master's thesis on the U.S. government and Indian Health Services campaign to sterilize Native American women. The book draws its title from a quote her mother found in a medical file as the reason stated for performing a radical hysterectomy on a healthy 20-year-old patient with no children. The doctor scribbling, because they breed like rabbits. Her husband, Russell E. Addison III, will read an excerpt from the novel on her behalf. Our thoughts and prayers continue to be with her family. Now, it's my pleasure to introduce the rest of tonight's readers: Jane S. Kim, Shakeema Smalls, Sarah Chaves, S. Erin Batiste, Connie Pertuz-Meza, Doreen Oliver, Iris Kim, Monica Mills, Christina Tudor, Edythe Rodriguez, and Julian Iralu. I hope you enjoy.
Hello everyone, my name is Hana Kim, and I'm the author of If You Leave Me and a forthcoming novel called The Stone Home. And I'm so happy to introduce the talented, kind, imaginative Jane S. Kim. It has been a true honor to work with her through this PEN America Emerging Voices Fellowship. Jane and I actually met online when she took a catapult class of mine in the summer of 2021. I was so deeply affected by her short stories then and eager to see what she would do next. So when we were serendipitously paired together through this mentorship with the PEN America organization unaware of our previous connection, it felt like a destined reunion. Mentorship is so important, as I firmly believe that the literary community is ever stronger when we buoy each other. But what I didn't realize until working with Jane is how much I could be nourished by this relationship as well. As a Korean American, as a child of immigrants, as a creative, as a writer, Jane and I share so many connections that allowed me to feel especially seen by her work. I hope you will be nourished as well, because there's so much to hold on to in Jane's writing, which is evocative, vivid, lush. Her stories explore themes of loneliness, grief, religion, art making, and friendship, all rooted in the Korean diaspora community living in Los Angeles, California. Her stories ask profound and universal questions like what makes a family and who sees those marked as invisible by society. Jane's writing is important because it expands our understanding of the capabilities of fiction and deepens our empathy for humanity. Now let's welcome Jane as she reads her incredible work for us all.
My name is Jane S. Kim, and I'm a fiction writer living in LA. Today I'll be reading an excerpt from my short story, Annie. It's about a friendship between 3 Korean American teenagers who connect over their shared discovery of music. In this scene, the main character, Hana, has her first true encounter with the mysterious Annie. I'd like to thank Pen America, Jared Jackson, TC Mann, and Jen Dees, as well as Jenny Bott and my mentor, Crystal Hana Kim. Please enjoy. When the day of auditions rolled around, I skipped lunch and sat in the shadow of the drafty auditorium to watch Annie's performance. Her audition was sparsely attended. Only a handful of teachers munched away at their sandwiches in the front row. Annie loped across the stage and stood before the darkened seats. Today I will play Rachmaninoff, Prelude in D major. She took a sloppy bow and settled on the bench. The music started off so quiet I could barely hear it. I leaned forward in my seat. The opening adagio unfurled in a gentle current, and Annie's playing caught me in a luminous eddy, crisp waters turning circles as it moved downstream. I floated on ripples threaded with light. The delicate slipstream of music purled over my skin. Triplet rhythms took on the rollicking gurgle of water spilling over stone. Annie pressed down on the sustain pedal, diffusing each melodic shift like a gasp of mist off the waves. Every note was so lucid, I could dip my hand into its luster. Steady legato boomed into commanding forte as the composition entered the climax. Annie's hands flew over the octaves like an eagle, and the river curved a bend, roared into a storm of silver arrows to meet the rising tide. Pianissimo, arpeggio, crescendo, reprise. Goosebumps spread over my arms and legs. The music crashed against the rocks in a thunderous waterfall, and when she hit the turn in the C-sharp note, I felt it like a river stone in my rib. I gasped in the icy rush, kicked to keep my head above water. Annie's playing was powerful, resonant, clear. It was unlike anything I'd ever heard. When she eased into the coda, repeating the slow opening once again, I returned to the banks of her hidden river and lay there dizzy, pinned under the bluest mountain sky. Her command over the room was total. Everyone in the auditorium knew we were in the presence of a singular talent. She joined us in choir as first chair that week.
Hi, everyone. My name is Porsha Olayiwola. I am the author of I Shimmer Sometimes Too, and am currently serving as the Poet Laureate for the City of Boston. I've also had the distinct honor, pleasure, privilege of serving as a mentor for the poet and writer Shakeema Smalls. I use the word mentor very loosely, and that over the last few months, we've had a chance to build a mutually beneficial literary friendship. Shakeema Smalls' care and intent around her work is infectious. One thing I find most promising about any writer is their sense of their own voice and style. Smalls' work feels to be a constant excavation of language, form, and history in a style that is uniquely her own. Not only does her work reach into a canon that is rooted in spirituality and the familiar, she also engages form in a way that transforms form. Shakeema is an incredible writer, an incredible thinker, an incredible caretaker, and it's been my pleasure to learn from you, Shakeema. Congratulations on everything. We are so grateful. We are so honored to be living in the time of you and your writing. And thank you so much.
Hi, my name is Shakeema Smalls, and I will be reading 2 poems, Sweetwater Mass and Every Time I Said Goodbye. Sweetwater Mass. At cool dusk, women sit by the river, mosquitoes tapping the corners of their laughter until just before nightfall. They gather to greet, to crack teat, exchanging funeral programs, lamenting the rising price of gas, where to vote, another's grandniece graduating from Morris Brown, the dry cleaners and how they don't do as good a job since integration. Of all things they know, for certain, the stars are the same, in the same sky, and this black-eyed galaxy won't dispossess its prophecies. If the Sweetwater spirits did listen, they'd hear tell that Isaiah drowned, ending afloat in the Santee one afternoon while fishing. The women recall how the boat tucked itself into the water, and his rail-thin body flailed and swallowed until the stars left his eyes. This next poem is called Every Time I Said Goodbye. Every time I said goodbye, the county said one must have an acre to harrow a grave. I walked down by the bottle tree, its low hum quivering. I have not been here before, where the cardinals whipple. The old fence, my sandaled feet ashen, hands trailing rust and honeysuckle. Mill sulfur welts my nose, mingling with the neighbors' burn barrel pepper clouds. The trees are partial, their rumors won't subside, their magnolia congregation about these meeting rivers. My feet splintered across the train tracks, a dingy white undershirt left by an uncle whose blood was sweet, whose body fissured. The highway median between us, its yellow markings, a ruler in the bosom of an old engine. In grief, one cannot help but cross a line. My waist damp, bearing on the side view mirror. I had some questions for the twin pines, splitting a ditch in the front yard, a hole where water once was, a history of digging. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Phuc Tran. I'm the author of the memoir Saigon, and I'd like to thank PEN America for the opportunity to be a mentor in the Emerging Voices Fellowship. It's been a delight working with Sarah Chaves, who is working on, among many other things, a memoir about her father's death and its impact on her, her family, and the healing that comes in the aftermath of such a loss. In our first conversation, Sarah said to me, in her own words, that she didn't want to write another dead dad memoir. Sarah is nothing if not a straight shooter, and her declaration wasn't dismissive. It was signaling that she expected more of herself as a writer and a storyteller. In reading her proposal and some of the chapters in her memoir, I'm struck by many things. The sharpness of her writing, the depth of her feeling, and the richness of her story as a Portuguese American. It's not another dead dad story. Yes, the story is about unimaginable loss, but I was and am struck by the love that is woven all throughout her memoir and the love that holds it together. Her memoir, in part, asks the question of what happens when a person who you love beyond all things dies. Love needs two people to reciprocate and to push and pull it, to manifest it into that emotional thing we call love. When we were in middle school and it was a one-sided and unreciprocated feeling, we called it a crush. We don't have a word for a love that's lost its partner. And maybe we don't have a word for that love and loss because it's too vast and complicated to squeeze into just one word. Maybe we need lots of words to tell that story. And that's what Sarah Chaves has. She has many words to tell that story, and I can't wait for you to read them. Thanks.
Hi everyone, my name is Sarah Chaves and I'm going to be reading an excerpt from my memoir titled Accident. When I was little, I thought my father was immortal, a god among men. It wasn't just that I worshipped him how so many daughters do, but I believed him capable of anything. From when I was 8, we played a game that seemed to particularly prove his supernatural abilities, the smell game. My brothers or I hid something, Leno's tiny Hot Wheels cars, one of my blonde Barbies, even something as small as one of Lucas's tiny Legos. We hid the toy in the closet under an old photo album or behind all the Disney VHSs in the entertainment center. We shouted, "Okay, we're ready." My father came in, my mother trailing behind him, the small silver spoon clinking in her white cracked coffee mug as she walked. While she sat on the sofa with us, my father got on his hands and knees. His makeshift knee pads he made out of carpet padding and torn leather straps for work, gliding across the scratched hardwood floor. He sniffed around, making a show of it, taking large inhales through his nose, sometimes opening his mouth and panting like a dog. We never knew how he did it, how he found the tiny Hot Wheels car hidden underneath the photo album in the closet, the blonde Barbie tucked behind the Disney VHS in the entertainment center, the Lego. But now I know it must have been obvious. Our eyes would have widened when he got closer to the toy, our toes wiggling in anticipation, our faces nestled into our mother's arms so he wouldn't see us laugh. We were always awestruck when he found it. Always. We'd ask him to do it again. We'd hide it better this time, we'd say. But he'd say no. He couldn't waste all his powers, he'd say. And then my brothers and I, mouths agape, would give each other a look to say, wow. My mother and father would wink at each other, a Christmas morning smile on any old Tuesday. We believed in his powers so much that if things got lost, the car keys, the remote control, we'd yell for him, "Papa, use your smell." He'd make another show of it, but these items were always more difficult to find. Even if his powers failed him, I refused to see it. I wanted to trust in his magic, even if I was getting too old to believe in it anymore. Perhaps that's why it took so long for me to believe in his death being permanent. I knew he was dead. I was 18, not a small child. But there were so many moments when I couldn't stop the irrational thought of his death being temporary somehow. That his death was just the grand finale trick in his magic show. He had died, had let his audience, me, my mother, and 2 brothers, gasp in horror while sitting white-knuckled on the edge of our seats. As we sat transfixed on his death, wallowing at the impossibility of what we had just saw, he poofed back onto the stage in grand fashion. Ta-da! A grand applause from us, yells of bravo even. Like every other time, we'd beg him how he'd done it. But a great magician never reveals his secrets. We let it go this time. It didn't matter. He was back. That ta-da moment never came. Just the opposite. I felt a slow sinking dread, much like the darkness of the Azores. It was a real reckoning that my father wasn't coming back, would never come back. Our family's protector, provider, was gone. Who would replace him? Though I had found myself at the helm of our family's ship as his eldest daughter, it was a role I neither asked for nor wanted. I had just graduated high school. I knew nothing of responsibility, of providing for a family, of being the person who was the glue. I was about to start college. How could I stay behind and take care of my family when this was the time I was supposed to leave and embark on my own journey? Someone else had to do it. Anyone but me. I never expected the anyone to be the very same person who had been driving the car when it crashed. The person with sad eyes and trembling lips. The person who was sorry, so deeply sorry for everything. My uncle.
Hi, my name is Evie Shockley. I'm a poet and a scholar and the author most recently of Semi-Automatic. And it's my great pleasure tonight to introduce the poet I've been mentoring in the PEN America Emerging Voices program this year, Erin Batiste. Erin, I would describe her work as maximalist, as larger than life, bursting with objects and bursting with emotion. It is highly crafted yet unpredictable. A lot of joy and surprise and clear-eyed critique in these poems, in their variousness. As Erin's work in progress is entitled Hoard, and I think among other things, it gives us a window into a particular kind of Black middle-class experience that is grounded geographically in the Southwest, and is focused particularly on the women in her family. And I think these are lives, geographically and otherwise, that we just don't see as often in the literary landscape. And so I'm really excited for you all to get to hear some of what I have been reading these past few months, work that will expand your sense of what it means to be Black in the U.S. So let me, without further ado, hand things over to S. Erin Batiste. Please welcome her and enjoy.
Greetings. My name is S. Erin Batiste, and I am one of the 2022 PEN Emerging Voices Fellows. First, I'd like to express my gratitude to everyone at PEN who has made this fellowship possible. It is a deep honor to be amongst such a powerful and brilliant cohort of women. And my mentor, Evie Shockley, who has shown me endless care, grace, and generosity, for which I am also grateful. Tonight, I will be reading The Yellow Jackets after Natasha Trethewey. The Yellow Jackets have returned. Each morning since May, I've awakened to their black and neon limbs, building a nest. Stung by childhood memory, I set out to sabotage their attempts. Use sticks, hoses, poisonous sprays, but my drugstore weapons are not enough to keep them from hovering above my awning at dawn. My landlord intervenes, says they have never been this persistent, insist my sweetness draws them here this season. I shake my head, knowing the wasp and I are a kind of honeyless colony. The oaks and palms grip Pasadena sidewalks, sluggish with the last of summer when all traces of the muddy dens disappear. Their departure reminds me of my own parents, who spent a decade trying to make a family. How nothing stuck. The glassy condos that confetti the Pacific coastline, the Spanish duplexes in Los Angeles. Seattle, San Diego, Tucson, Tempe, Burlingame. The Spokane bungalow reduced to ash and snow. I picture the wasp sweeping sunrise in cursive. They treaded air for weeks, determined to shelter their young. My parents' failures took years, but they gave up and vanished too, leaving me to search for papery wings scattered in the Santa Ana winds, which simmer like an oven cradling dinner. Finally, call me home. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Reyna Grande, and I am the author of The Distance Between Us, and most recently, A Ballad of Love and Glory. It is such an honor to be an Evie mentor this year. I myself was an Evie fellow back in 2003, and that experience completely changed my life. I want to thank PEN America for giving me the opportunity to give back and to help an emerging writer in their own journey. I was fortunate enough to be paired with my mentee, Connie Pertuz-Meza, who's a wonderful person and an extremely hardworking writer who's very dedicated to her craft. Connie is a Colombian-American writer who writes about her life, family, and ancestors. Her work has been published in several publications, including The Rumpus, Lunch Ticket, Raising Mothers, Voices in the Middle, The Acentos Review, and several anthologies. She's a Bona alum and board member. She's been a Tin House participant and has received other fellowships and recognitions. I'm very proud of you, Connie. And just like my own Evie mentor from 2003 is still in my life, I hope to remain in your life and help you along in your own writing journey. Thank you so much.
Girl from Sunset by Connie Pertuz-Meza. In the fall of 1987, I was 10, and Sunset Park was known as Gunset. Latin kings used the building stoops as their thrones. Police sirens and TKAs, Tears May Fall, punctured the air. Old men posted on every corner, catcalls spilled out of their mouths, interrupted by sips of Budweiser, hidden in brown paper bags. Displayed on the windows of most bodega were signs that WIC and food stamps were accepted. It was the only Brooklyn I knew, a section in South Brooklyn named after the park in its center. I wondered how something so beautiful, like a sunset, could also bear the name of my neighborhood. Camina rápido. Mommy pulled my hand. Afraid that Mommy would walk away with my arm, I raced to catch up. The sky faded to a navy blue and turned black. I craned my neck and wondered how a sky that looked like a melted rainbow ice from Charles' Pizzeria 1 minute could bruise and turn ugly and dark the next. It's late. Mommy looked down at me. We were far from home. Ugh, I groaned. My feet ached. It felt like we walked Sunset Park twice. Keep walking, Mommy tugged at my arm, but this time, softer. Joanne, 2.5 years older, kept to Mommy's pace. Mommy had a hustle, and every Friday was the same. Mommy sold clothes throughout Sunset Park. She counted neighbors, friends, and friends of friends among her clients. A layaway system made Mommy's on-the-go boutique marketable. Friday was payday. At the first of the month, when the welfare checks were cashed, Mommy could expect more money. As children, it was easier to fill the ledger and with the red margins and blue squares with our own handwriting and not Mommy's broken twig letters. If we cut through the park, we could get there faster, Joanne said. The place is filled with rapists and gang members, Mommy hissed. I never stepped foot in the park, not even during the hot summer days when we caught sight of the kids and the teenagers walking to the park with towels on their shoulders like superheroes. Mommy insisted that the pool was filled with disease and perverts lurked in every corner. It was always the three of us. Mommy took turns laying on our bed at night. One night Joanne's, next mine, and like a braid we became intertwined. Mommy would whisper in the dark that she was both our mother and our father. Lying next to Mommy, I listened to the sound of her breath, unaware that Mommy also listened for something too, the door to open and Papi to call out. Papi always came home late. When night blended to dawn, never a precise time, just a shade of blue across the sky. Hills made it hard to walk fast and not be out of breath. At school that year before, I wrote a report on Sunset Park on how the Dutch purchased the land from the Canarsie Indians. I like to imagine it the way it was back then. Wild, but not dangerous. No sneakers strung up on lampposts or guys on bodega corners with their hands buried in their pockets and eyes darting back and forth. Grassy knolls, not buildings with lobbies covered in graffiti and broken light bulbs shattered. Almost home, Public 169, our landmark. Sometimes I just want to keep walking, Mommy whispered, and never stop. My heart closed like a fist. Do you know that it's harder to stand in one place than it is just to walk a lot? Mommy slowed down. I fought the urge not to yank her arm. Now close to home, I wanted nothing more to lie on my bed and read so that Mommy and Papi's fights and Sunset Park could disappear between the pages. Once upon a time, I thought Sunset Park was the most beautiful place in the world. But that changed the fall of 1987. On that walk home, I saw what Mommy saw. How living in a beat-up part of Brooklyn made you feel those things, despite how beautiful the sunset can be.
Hi, my name is Margaret Wilkerson Sexton, the author of 3 novels, A Kind of Freedom, The Revisioners, and most recently, On the Rooftop. This year, I've had the distinct pleasure of mentoring Doreen Oliver through the PEN America Emerging Voices program. I've always held PEN America in such high esteem, and it's been a joy to uphold its values by providing guidance to one emerging and indispensable voice in particular. I'm honored to introduce Doreen Oliver. Doreen brings uncommon insight and compassion to her work. Her characters are deeply considered and thoroughly rendered. The themes she explores, motherhood and power within the constructs of race, are rarely granted such depth, and her writing is masterfully paced, authentic, and downright gorgeous. I am so eager for the world to gain access to her wisdom and her words. It has been an absolute privilege to have an early sample. Thank you, Doreen, and thank you, Pen.
Doreen Oliver, and this is an excerpt from my novel, Flirting with Disaster. Celeste bursts into the bathroom of a Penn Station bar, desperate to find her underwear. She knows she had them on when she left them home. She's not that crazy. They're not something you forget to take with you like mints or tampons. Driving into the city earlier, she kept shifting in her seat because her new thong butchered her booty. She hasn't worn one in 10 years. Maybe you're supposed to buy the one size up from regular panties, like sneakers from England. Or was that one size down? But wouldn't a bigger size make them baggy? What good are baggy thongs? Who knows? Not Celeste. Celeste's not sure if she knows anything anymore. She quickly looks into the 2 stalls, then rushes to the sink to dig through her purse. She's not worried someone forced them off of her. That would be disastrous, and so far the night has been delicious. James is out there at the bar, waiting for her. They met earlier in the evening at the opening of her best friend Mellie's Afro Beats Pilates gym near Columbus Circle. He and Celeste bonded over fine champagne and their odd love for kids' television shows, her favorites a decade older than his. After escorting their guest of honor to her train at Penn Station, James invited Celeste to stay and have another drink. That was a limp Caesar salad and 2 dry martinis ago. Or was it 3? She must have stashed her underwear in her bag. Celeste takes inventory on the counter. Cell phone, lip gloss, inhaler, earring. Elated, she pins it through her left lobe to match the one dangling from her right. Black pen, blue pen, red pen, new pen. She laughs at the rhymes in her head. Hey, a voice to her left growls. Stop throwing your shit all over the place, says the tall redhead next to her at the double basin sink. Celeste could have sworn she was alone. With the back of her hand, the redhead strikes one of Celeste's pens away from her, sending it careening back to its owner, where it crashes into the purse before ricocheting off the surface, finally landing on the sticky, soiled floor of the underground train station bathroom. The woman turns back to the mirror to finish painting her lips into red pillows. The boozy bubbles in Celeste's head, the ones that delightfully float her away from such mundane atrocities, begin to pop. That was a hostile act, she believes, and Celeste was well versed in dealing with other people's hostility. When she rose through the ranks at Health Inquest Health Pharma and became the youngest, blackest, and only female member on the #1 marketing team in the company, her new supervisor tried to get her fired. She didn't fit in with the team's culture, he said. Celeste kept copious notes of every time he referred to her as colored and formed a tight relationship with his boss. When their biggest competitor poached her for a more senior role, her company counter-offered with an insane amount of money and gifted her with a Tiffany bracelet and earrings. She took the jewelry and left everything else behind. Celeste finally takes in the woman next to her. Redhead's liner is too light for her lipstick, leaving her lips undefined. Her roundedness spills freeform into the sleeveless black jumpsuit she wears, her wayward breasts the result of an ill-fitting bra, her childbearing hips stretching the seams of her clothing, the low-hanging pouch of her stomach surely the result of a C-section after oversized pregnancies. A woman in her 40s, she clearly misplaced her sexuality long ago. Watching her coat and recoat her lips in the dimly lit bathroom, Celeste senses she's as desperate to reclaim it as Celeste is her thong. Celeste knows how to handle this woman, drunk or not. She conceals her stinger with an offering of honey. "You look beautiful," she says. Redhead is shocked into stillness. What? Still, she can't help but blush. "That's, nice of you to say." Celeste silently touches up her lips with gloss, but doesn't need to do much more. When everything began to happen a few months ago, she learned from retail makeup artists how to cover up the dark circles around her eyes and apply her mascara and eyeshadow to look sultry but natural. She wears casual but bright-colored sundresses that glide against her curves and pop against her brown skin. She and Redhead may be around the same age and at once might have been on the same path, but their roads certainly diverged. To save herself, Celeste chose a detour. From time to time, though, she finds herself sinking into quicksand. Celeste bends to pick up her pen. Embarrassed, Redhead grabs a paper towel from the dispenser. "I'm sorry," she says, handing it to her. "You just caught me off guard because, you flew into the bathroom and started tossing everything everywhere like I wasn't even here." Celeste smiles again. "I get it. No worries." The silence returns, and Celeste can feel Redhead waiting for something from her this time. A reciprocal apology, an admission that the woman was, in fact, invisible to her. For the last 10 years, this was something Celeste might do. After an apology from someone who'd benignly wronged her, Celeste would reply with words of gratitude or even a humble acknowledgement of her own role in the tiff, and then cast it off, anxiously girding herself against the next genuine catastrophe. Maybe later she'd hype it up as a girls' night anecdote over drinks with Melly and Elena and Peyton, starting the story with, "Guess what this bitch did?" and ending it with, "I sure fixed her." In the moment, though, she'd express her most genuine and polite regrets. But tonight, with the alcohol fueling her feelings to excess, Celeste isn't going to admit to anything. She is tired of apologizing. It's impossible to quantify how many apologies she's owed from 42 years of micro and macro aggressions. She refuses to give any more until she collects enough to at least break even. But she'll give this woman something else.
Hi, my name is Leslie Jamison, and it's been such a pleasure to work with Iris Kim during this fellowship season. It's been a pleasure to work with her for 1,000 reasons. Her work has already changed the ways I think about intimacy, family, bodies, inheritance, both loving and violent, beauty, colonial legacies, accountability, trauma, storytelling, and the relationship between all these things. Her voice is nuanced and seeking, energized by the humility of curiosity and the passionate courage of an outraged, empathetic sensitivity to the broken beauty of this world we all inhabit. It's such an unfolding, waterfalling pleasure to talk to Iris about her thoughtful work and all the important questions it raises. Our conversations unspool in 1,000 directions, and I feel like I could follow them to the edges of the world and beyond. I can't wait to keep following her voice and her work for years to come, to watch her writing reach and rearrange all those readers who didn't even know how badly they needed it.
Hi, my name is Iris Eon Kim. I'm a Korean American writer based in Los Angeles. I'm a 2022 Emerging Voices Creative Nonfiction Fellow. I'm so grateful to PEN America and my mentor Leslie Jamison for all their support during the fellowship. Today, I'll be reading an excerpt from my essay titled Before and After. Most summers growing up, my parents would ship me off to my grandparents in Seoul. During the afternoons, I'd sprawl out on the bamboo mat in the sweltering heat as my grandmother tuned in to a Korean drama or K-pop show playing on the government-sponsored channels. I sat, enraptured by the stick-thin and pale-complexioned Korean stars on screen with their tragic melodramatic storylines, bubblegum pop tunes, and scandalous dance moves. They looked nothing like me, from their narrow jawlines to their enormous anime-like eyes and their milky white skin tones. Why don't my eyes look like that? I'd ask my family gathered around the TV. That's because they've all had double eyelid surgery, my aunt would explain to me. Almost every single actress you see in these shows has gotten some type of surgery done. You can too when you're older. At summer's end, back home in America, I pinched my eyes while inspecting myself in the bathroom mirror to craft folds of various shapes and sizes. I cut out thin crescent moon pieces of clear tape that conformed to my eyelid shape, then pasted them above my lash line. The tape folded my skin over to create a crease following the curve of my eye. Satisfied, I smiled at myself in the mirror at my newly defined set of eyes. A minority of all Koreans are born with a fold, but most of my family members had naturally endowed double eyelids. It seemed like a cruel twist of fate to me at the time. "We can pay for the surgery later," my parents reassured me. "You definitely look prettier with double eyelids. It would brighten up your face more." The passing remarks from family members, the ethereal beauty of K-pop stars, and the sandbox jokes built on one another over the years. A friend returned from Seoul one summer before she left for NYU. Her previously hooded eyes tripled in size. Hers was a complete success story, her entire face seemingly having changed from the procedure. It was a confirmation I needed. I was doubly convinced of the life-changing power of the double eyelid surgery. When I first explained to my mostly non-Asian friends in high school what I was about to do, what the surgery would modify, I was mostly met with confused expressions. "What do you mean you're creating a fold in the eye?" they'd ask, puzzled. "See how your eyes have a wrinkle, a crease above the lash line, and mine don't?" My friends would just shake their heads and chuckle. Whoa, we didn't even know that that was a thing, that an eyelid crease was a thing. Back then, it didn't strike me that I was getting cosmetic surgery to create a physical trait that almost none of my friends even knew existed. Shortly before my freshman year of college, my mother scheduled a consultation with a well-known plastic surgeon in Los Angeles. She and I drove down 6 hours from the Bay Area to Los Angeles K-Town on an early July morning. Dr. Kim was a middle-aged, well-groomed man in what looked to be his 40s, with a placid nature. He had eyes that looked like mine, single-lidded. He flipped through a few pictures on his desktop screen of before and after the blepharoplasty surgery. Monolid, click, double eyelid. Monolid, click, double eyelid. My heart leaped. A whole new pair of beautiful eyes. The after screen opened up a world of possibilities. I had been ready since the day I laid eyes on my first K-pop star.
Hello, my name is Roya Marsh. I am the author of Daylight and the co-founder of the Bronx Poet Laureate. I have been honored to partner with PEN's Emerging Voices Fellowship for the past few cycles, and I'm so grateful for the opportunity to have worked with Monica Mills, who I will be introducing for you all. It is a blessing to be trusted with mentoring and growing in community with other Black queer writers. Monica, a Black queer writer of Caribbean descent, is a true testament to the necessity of these spaces. I was immediately enamored with the soft-hearted nature of Monica's eager and ambitious writing. Her work discusses love, loss, life, and death from the heart of her intersections. We spent a lot of our time writing and or talking about writing through process and expectation, both the expectations that we have for ourselves and our hopes for our audience and for the longevity of our work. Monica herself hopes to write a collection of poems that can challenge and celebrate what it means to survive in a world that wants to erase her. We celebrate every win. There can never be too much joy, and I promise I will be sure to snag the first 10 copies of your debut collection. Thank you.
I'm Monica Mills. Thank you so much to PEN America, to Roya Marsh, and to everyone who made this experience possible. This first poem is called Learning to Code. In this gathering age of E-Trade and add-ons, apathy falls starlit through mottled clouds, becomes a post that paints dreams across autocorrect, phosphorescent, photoshopped into midsummer ceiling where binary learns to be God. Code knows that consumerism comes taped in cardboard boxes, freely shipped with 2-day delivery. This auction never ends. Attention is sold to highest bidders like seconds are sold to the clock, pre-owned by time's unassumed addiction, by its ticking need to be used. God says click here to buy guns, click there for forms on guillotines, click here to know which mammal you'd be if trapped in the garden with Adam and Eve. This is a list of serpents. That is the Bible in Sanskrit. Here are color-coded cemeteries where pixelated profiles of people long expired IRL sit as soulful software. Status is perpetually pending, immortal as mathematical constants, as the digits in pi, even on unholy days. 3.14159. Here is the number for a bakery near you, where URLs become bombs if inhaled by rote. If you're sad, code knows you're sad. Here are 2 ads for fluoxetine. If you're glad, of course you're glad. Dopamine spikes come thrusted into your eye like Barbies at base of Caspian Sea. Code knows that blue light blooms steadily from screens, that monitors are monikers for anonymity and pride. Inhale your username as the siren song. Exhale yourself as a stranger, as carbon, and other small repentances. Are you ready to subscribe? This next poem is called It's Sunday in November at the Laundromat Across from Popeyes. And washing machines stand at the ready, single file, a platoon at war with grit and wine stains, each whirling box uniformed in other forms of tragedy. This one wears a post-it note, out of order, do not use. That one has no door, glass punched in, too wounded, too open for an honest clean. Somewhere stories crusted between dried detergent, soap scum, fabric softener. Others are musted inside, rank with remnants of trinkets fallen from pockets, history drowned in a tumbling thrash, mask, penny, leaf, outdated coupon speckled with bleach, all twisted against the funk of forgotten clothes. But it's Sunday in November at the laundromat across from Popeyes, and there are sisters here, brothers, aunties, some adorned in Sunday best, some slouched in damn, the weekend went quick kind of sorrow. Everyone searches for shapes against the dryer's steady thrum, blood stains, love stains, tossing scent of lemon and singed lint. A boy, maybe 7, skin brown as mine, climbs into washer 16 just to see if he can fit inside. And he can. An older man gives washer 38 all he has to spare. A flat hat stained gray on one side. A bright, bleach-soaked shirt. A few aged anecdotes, jokes with punchlines faded from wear, left forgotten in a torn coat pocket. What more can be lost for an extra quarter when every rag within his wash becomes a worn workweek recollection of wishing to be clean, of rides home as each stoplight endures a long, empty life before finally breaking bad, going green, giving in only to relapse red the next minute or two. But it's Sunday in November at the laundromat across from Popeyes, and there is foam on the floor, fat and slick against white checkered tile. Another day gone, meticulously folded to tune of old-school R&B booming from speakers in the back. My clothes are clean and warm and pressed. The world outside widens in wait to dirty them again. Thank you.
Hi there. My name is Kristen Arnett, and I'm the queer author of the novels Mostly Dead Things and With Teeth. I'm so extremely grateful that I was asked to mentor this year for PEN America. It's exciting to be part of such a phenomenal program, one meant to bolster and invigorate artists and their work. This mentorship provides time, support, and resources to writers who need it the most. So it's my supreme pleasure to introduce one of those wonderful mentees to you all right now. Christina Tudor is a dynamite writer and a wonderful human being. Working with her for the past few months, I've been blown away with the commitment she gives to her craft. Her work's raw and honest and very tender. It's writing that asks the reader to sit with pain, not to understand it necessarily, but to recognize it and honor it, to give it space. There's empathy here, but nothing stagnant. Christina's writing has momentum. It moves forward and inward to dissect the role of trauma inside a family. This work palpates the open wound of the body and creates greater questions, ones that stick with the reader for a very long time. So it's an honor to engage with such honest work. What a gift to hear her read from this novel in progress right now. Thank you, PEN, and thank you, Christina.
Hi, my name is Christina Tudor, and I'm going to be reading an excerpt from my novel in progress, Point Zero. Haley lived in Rivercrest, a subsection of land carved out by the Mohawk River near the defunct General Electric factory. That day, we followed the river. We walked on the grass, straw-like and dying, while blades curled around our sandals and between our toes, like it wanted to keep us there. We broke through it, together. Cars sailed past us on River Road, and we watched them blur in the corner of our eyes and heard the whoosh, whoosh, whoosh of a tight right turn that bent with the river. I felt the thrill of the air changing around us with the approaching cars, moving with traffic and not against it, like my mother always told me. The Mohawk River was beneath us right then, the two of us towering over it. I tried to keep up as we walked for what felt like miles. She walked ahead and I followed her, grateful that Haley Benson invited me here. I rushed forward into her shadow as she walked towards the sun. When Haley noticed me, struggling to keep pace with her, she grabbed my hand and pulled me along with her. "This is it," she said. "This is my favorite spot." She gestured to where the hill dipped down and you could see the river in full. "Let's get closer." We climbed over the guardrail. She climbed. I struggled. My leg muscles too tight to bend over the barrier. So I got on the ground and crawled under and emerged with my nails full of dirt and faint green on my jeans. She laughed. I joined in. We moved closer and watched the water rushing under us, the rapids foaming at the mouth of the rocks at the river's edges. We looked down. I found shapes in the rushing water, like you'd find shapes in the clouds. Paint splatter, flower petals, a swirl like a tornado. Haley took another step forward, not quite at the edge, but close enough. I planted my feet on the ground, rocked my weight back into my heels. I thought I saw a flicker of fear in her eye that might have also been determination. She made to arc her body forward, or maybe I imagined it. Stretching out my hands, I made to grip her, hold her there with me, save her. "What?" she asked. "I don't want you to fall?" I said it like a question, like I didn't care, like it was obvious. Sometimes I wondered if my want burned in my throat. "I won't fall, and you wouldn't be able to swoop in and save me or anything either." This was true. My own legs didn't hold me up, let alone anyone else. We both knew what she meant without saying it. The silence stretched between us. Nothing but the wind pushing against our backs, the water rushing, the cars moving behind us. She sat down cross-legged in the grass and kicked off her shoes. I held on to the back of the guardrail, which left grime on my fingers that felt like chalk and left them smelling like metal. It was dirty, but it was ours. I pictured us spending the summer sitting there in the grass, me reading while Haley made up theories about the world or played on her guitar. Then we heard the sirens. Flashing lights, blue and red, bounced off the riverfront. A police officer was getting out of his car, calling us back from the world that had been ours. Thank you for listening.
Hello, my name is Jose Guadalupe Olivares, and I am the author of the poetry collection Citizen Illegal and Promises of Gold. I'm thrilled to serve as a mentor for PEN America's Emerging Voices Fellowship. As a writer, mentorship programs like this one were foundational to my own learning and confidence. I hope this year's cohort of writers know they are capable of writing the books they dream of. It is my honor to introduce Edythe Rodriguez. Edythe is a writer of remarkable vision. The first time we talked, she shared plans for the first few books she wants to write. Her poetry dazzles with its use of emotional textures. Some poems hit my most tender grief points. Other poems make me chuckle or wince at their searing truth. Edythe is a writer to read on all occasions. She reminds us of our humanity, our hurts and our joys, our pain and our laughter. Edythe is an excellent writer and an excellent person, and it is my deepest joy to present her tonight. Please give all your love to Edythe Rodriguez.
This is Edythe Rodriguez, and I'm going to be reading Afro-Latina. Afro, like a new church. A new Sabbath in bathroom mirror pews. My bonnet slid back in confession. A rat tail comb caught the Holy Ghost of a side part. Latin like totone, chicharrón. My seasoning needs seasoning, and there's no such thing as too much sofrito. Meaning woman. Spine, water, blood, everything green, afro like Hausa, Mende, Wolof, like another unapproved border, like something else stolen in black wandering to drums, now a soundtrack for slaughter. Latin like conquistador. Who is my neighbor and who is his father? Who got the land? Like whose face don't you see in the telenovela? Como se dice paper bag test? Como se dice chattel? Como se dice redlining? Are these our slaves or your slaves? Fetch the interpreter. Meaning woman. No le pega la negra. Rape, subtitled. Meaning I've heard our women scream in every language there is. Afro-Latina like misnomer, like South Africa, giving everything a new name and bleeding out a mother tongue. Yoruba, long beaten from my lips. Kunte skinned into Toby. Heru is your new Jesus, an old sin. My God is your God. My land is your land. My names are your names now. Afro-Latina like double consciousness. Stockholm Syndrome, I'm African, like Winnie Ann Makeba. Like the boat docked, let my sister off before me, like my hair does this, in IT and the Bronx. African, like say my name and say it right. Azania, Uzo Amaka, like call me Toby again. I dare you. Thank y'all.
Greetings. I'm Tochio Nyebuchi, author of several books, including Riot Baby and most recently Goliath. It was an honor to be asked to be a mentor for the PEN Emerging Voices program, not simply because it is precisely the type of thing I might have wished for as a young Padawan, but also because I was excited by the incredible talent I would inevitably encounter. Julian Iralu is such a talent. My only gripe with our sessions is that they can only be an hour long. Her novel In Progress is such a haunting, visceral, and gripping work that I could spend many, many more hours discussing and dissecting it with her. There is a fearlessness to her work that makes it growl and a tenderness that makes it sing. Dystopia stories are a dime a dozen these days, but the way Julian tackles oppression and empowerment, physical destruction and emotional revival is wholly unique. As much as I've hoped to teach, I've also learned a tremendous amount, and I hope the same can be said of you all upon hearing Julian read from her work. Thank you, PEN, for this opportunity, and thank you, Julian, for the same.
My name is Julian Iralu, and I'll be reading an excerpt of Monsoon Markings. My sister Mariposa has bumps threaded down her backbone like beads on a pearl necklace, hard as cystic acne. We sleep under the stars in the garden bed, outside children who have grown into outside young women. In the dark of night, Mariposa's bumps shine white as though constellations have fallen. Some bulbs already blossom with strange petals of mold in shades of blue-green, first gelatinous, then pliable as Play-Doh, then crumbling like drywall. Moths nest on the surface of my sister's back. The hornworm moth and loopers dance about her in an eclipse. I watch over her back at night. I don't have any weapons, but if the hunters come with knives at night to skin the mold from my sister, I'll sing a song to waken my parents. I'll crack glass beer bottles on the hunters' kneecaps. I'll keep my sister safe. It was last spring when Mariposa first showed signs of blue. Our mother had taught us the thinner you were, the more likely you were to blossom blue. A woman that is thin grows blue, grows beautiful. A woman that grows blue is a miracle, beautiful. Mother used to measure the circumference of our wrists and pinch fat on our bodies, wrap shoelaces around our stomachs. But it was Mariposa, who has curves and rounded edges like slices of the moon, who blossomed blue first. My sisters and I have known this danger of hunters in the blade since our toddler year nursery rhymes. Is a woman like a funyun? No, a woman is an onion, her moldy back, each layer a petal, sharp, sharp metal. The hunter wields his cookie cutter. Cut her, cut her. Now we are women, and this danger has only become more real. But tonight, as I keep watch for hunters, my breath catches when I see my mother. My mother crouches at the foot of the garden bed, waving a back scratcher through the night to scare away the moths, then uses the scratcher to massage the bulbs on Mariposa's back. They expand, leaking mold that clumps together, soft and sweet like roasted marshmallows. It's not pus, it's blue. Mother uses a single blade razor, dry shave. She grounds her fingertips on the surface of Mariposa's skin, knuckles folded in the mold. Mother tries to be neat, but I can see the blue beneath her French manicure. She fills a Ziploc with slivers of fungus that curl like fruit roll-ups. With a Sharpie, Mother writes down the expiration date, August 2045, a year from now. Mariposa is biting the collar of her shirt as if to stop from screaming. Her skin is bruised like each bulb is surrounded by a hickey. I squirt a thin layer of hand sanitizer up and down the backbone. Mother hands me a makeup sponge and concealer liquid and walks inside to store the mold. I paint over Mariposa's gold mine back. It is better no one knows that Mariposa has the blue, at least for the next 2 years, until she's 21, the legal age when my parents will sell her to the hunters. I don't know the exact currency for the mold. I guess 2 square inches might be 100 acres of land, 40 cattle. Because of Mariposa, my father jokes he will drive a different color of Maserati every day of the week. I shudder as my fingers brush against her skin. I reach into my bra where I store Tylenol, and I tuck a piece between her lips. The hunters will not harvest this gently. I promise myself for what might be the 100th time that I will protect her. I tell myself what our parents tell us, though no amount of willing it to be true makes me have any faith. That some girls survive.
Hello, I am David Heska Wombley-Wyden, the author of Winter Counts, and I want to say that I was really tremendously excited to be asked to be a mentor for the PEN Emerging Voices program, and I happily accepted. PEN America has played a really large role in my writing career, and it's an organization that I fully support. And as a Lakota writer, I was absolutely thrilled to learn that I would be mentoring an emerging Cherokee writer, Natáhne Arrowsmith. However, I was at a writing residency working on my next book when I received the tragic and heartbreaking news that Natáhne had passed away. I was stunned and again heartbroken by the news, and I simply refused to accept it initially. It's simply not fair that such a promising artist should have left us this early. And of course, she leaves behind a husband and family, and words can't do justice to the grief that I know they are feeling. I had worked with Natáhne for 2 periods, and I looked at 2 of her writing samples, and I want to tell you that I was blown away by the originality of her voice, her wonderfully compelling characters, and the vibrancy of her fiction. I was completely convinced that her novel would be published relatively quickly, and that we'd be able to welcome an important new voice to Native American fiction. I understand, though, that some of her short stories might in fact be published, which gives me some small solace. I would like to end tonight with words from her husband, Russell. Russell wrote to us after passing on the tragic news, And here is what he wrote about his wife, Natáhne Arrowsmith. She was scared to set out on this journey, but more excited and joyful than I had seen in decades. She was not by nature traditionally scholarly or studious, but rather a seeker of information, a compiler of ideas, an artist. I am continuously comforted that she decided to submit her piece first, so you all could witness her unique voice and storytelling ability. Throughout our 30 years together, we would often discuss future desires and wishes, but always in the semi-serious, dreamy fashion. Were we actually going to sell everything and live off the land on a compound with friends up on the coast of California? In her first meeting with her mentor, he asked her, "What do you want?" She downplayed and responded humbly. But over the next few days, she rethought, and the dreamy wishes we had talked about for her writing career became concrete. At the next meeting, she corrected herself and stated boldly all the lofty goals she was setting for her art. All the support and belief that you all had given her through this process was a real validation of her true artistic desires, and it gave her the strength to finally step through decades of self-doubt and fear and proclaim, "I am a proud Cherokee woman and storyteller. This is what I want, and I am going to get it." Thank you all, and thank you, Natáhne, for your words.
My name is Russell Adamson. I'll be reading for my late wife, Natáhne Arrowsmith, from her unfinished novel, They Breed Like Rabbits. 5 dead babies. I cried on the exam table as the nurse pulled a blanket up to my chin. "I'm sorry it's so cold in here. We're working on getting the heat fixed. Can I get you some water?" The clinic in Sallisaw never had heat in the winter, or even fans in the summer, let alone AC. I just shook my head, turned on my side, and cried as quietly as I could into the blanket that smelled like bleach and felt more like a punishment than a comfort. 5. Each time I found out I was pregnant, I was a little less and less excited. Each time I hoped to meet them and learn if they were a boy or a girl, a son or a daughter. Each time I lost them, I never let the doctors or nurses tell me what I'd almost had, so I ever knew. Someone once told me I should ask their gender, to name them, that it might make me feel better, more connected to them. But I just couldn't. I couldn't carry their souls around with me like that. Names are an identity, a purpose. And what was the purpose of their existence other than to remind me I wasn't really a woman? I was the only Indian woman I knew without at least 2 kids. I was becoming an old auntie kind of tragic that I wasn't prepared for. It didn't feel like my intended role, not at 28. I should have at least 3 by now. The doctor came in rushed and agitated over something I was sure couldn't be worth the energy he was bringing into this room. I hated this one in particular. Had him once before. Waxy and pale. His skin had a blue hue that looked like skim milk, and his hands were icebox cold. None of them were anything to write home about. All of them acted like they were doing us all a favor, there to save every single one of us, while greeting us in the wrong tribe's language, or making those jokes only white men think are funny. "So, how do you pronounce your name? Tawodi, just like it's spelled." "Well, you just woed me, Lil Philly." He patted my thigh with his icicle fingers. He was going to give me vampire nightmares tonight. Why are they so uncomfortable with just being silent? Why must they fill spaces with their discomfort with themselves? Why is it they are never as funny as they think they are? I'm still crying and he's auditioning to be the warm-up guy for Charo. If you're going to waste my time when I've got a dead baby inside me, at least be funny. Yoneg. "Does it have a meaning?" he asked without pretending he was actually interested. I didn't answer him because he doesn't deserve an answer. He doesn't deserve to know that the night I was born, the wind howled so loud my newly birthed self screamed at a pitch above it, trying to make myself known in a storm that was trying to blow us all away. He doesn't deserve to know that my cry echoed through the cramped bedroom and pierced the barrier between our world and spirits, the cry of a hawk calling to its mate. He doesn't deserve to know my name belongs to that cry, that my Edythe shouted it out as I earned it. Tawodi, she'd exclaimed. Her name is Tawodi. She cries for all of us. He ignored me ignoring his question, and looked me up and down, then sighed dramatically. Now he was going for his Oscar. He really wanted me to know he was taking the stack of papers in my ever-growing chart very, very seriously. He frowned like a worn and weathered old man, brow all wrinkled with his practiced concern. He showed his inexperience when he plopped down on his rolling stool like a restless kid, swinging from left to right, as he looked at my history, which seemed to be far more interesting than the still sniffling, tear-streaked woman in front of him.
Hello again. That concludes our evening. Thank you all for joining us tonight, and congratulations again to tonight's readers. The 2023 Emerging Voices Fellowship application period will open on January 1st. Please subscribe to PEN America's newsletter and follow us on social media for updates and more information. Until then, enjoy the rest of your evening, and we hope to see you soon. Bye.